He pulled a cop out of a ditch, the same one who'd fined him for helping someone last winter. Wind slashed the road like sandpaper. Snow hissed across the hood, clinging in bursts of white. Earl leaned forward, squinting through the glare. The radio cracked, then the voice. SUV off Route 12. Police unit. He didn't answer, just reached for his gloves. The sound of leather creaking cut through the static like a start signal. He didn't say much, just reached for his gloves. Heavy leather, cracked along the fingers, and stepped out into the wind. The night felt alive, sharp, humming, the kind that froze breath midair. Up ahead, the patrol car's lights blinked red and blue across the snowbanks. The sight hit him in the gut, though he didn't move faster or slower. He remembered another winter, another road, same flashing lights behind him, same tone in the officer's voice when he'd tried to explain. Rules are rules, sir. That fine had stung worse than the cold. Now the same man stood beside his half-buried cruiser, trying to smile through embarrassment. Didn't expect to see you tonight, the cop said, breath fogging in the air. Earl nodded once. Guess not. He unhooked the chain, metal biting his palm, and crouched by the bumper. The snow squealed under his boots. Every move was slow, steady, the way you did things when it mattered not to slip. The winch groaned as he tightened the cable, the sound cutting through the night like a warning. The cop started talking about weather, about bad luck, about how the ditch came out of nowhere. Earl didn't answer. He could feel the man's discomfort hanging between them, thick as the steam from the engine. When the car finally jerked free, mud and slush spraying up the side, Earl kept his hand on the lever a moment longer than needed. The chain trembled, whining under tension. Then he released it, quiet, precise. The cop exhaled, half a laugh. You still keeping busy? Earl looked at the flashing lights on the wet snow. Yeah, he said. Always something to pull out. The wind carried that line down the empty road, like it knew better than to stick around. The engine ticked as it cooled. Steam curled out from under the hood, fading into the snow. Earl stood with his gloves still on, brushing salt from the cable. The cop, Matthews, though neither said the name, fumbled with his flashlight, trying not to look shaken. Appreciate it, he said, too casually. Road's worse than it looks tonight. Earl just nodded. Yeah. Matthews hesitated, the beam of light jittering across Earl's boots. You still running that old Chevy wrecker? Thought the county was going to replace you guys with the new contracts. Earl gave a dry chuckle. They tried. He went back to work, coiling the chain. The metal clanked in short, tired bursts. Every sound felt louder out here. The scrape of hooks, the hum of the idling truck, the wind dragging loose snow across the asphalt. Matthews kept talking like silence might swallow him. Crazy thing, the cop said. Last winter, I had to find a guy out here, parked in a loading zone. Said he was helping a wrecked driver. Can't bend procedure, you know? Everything's logged now. Cameras. Gotta follow rules. Earl didn't look up. Yeah, I heard that one. The words hung there, small, simple, but they shifted something in the air. Matthews rubbed his hands together, pretending not to notice. Anyway, he said, department gives a discount to essential services, so, if you want. Earl's voice cut in, calm but final. I charge the same for everyone. Silence landed heavy. The wind shoved against the cruiser, rocking it once. Earl tore the invoice pad free. Neat. Even handwriting, carbon edges curling like frost. Matthews took it slow, eyes tracking the numbers as if they could bite back. He fumbled for his wallet. You want cash or? Pay it at the shop tomorrow, Earl said. Same as anyone else. Matthews nodded, face blank. The kind of nod that meant he'd run out of things to hide behind. When Earl climbed into his truck, the heater screamed before it caught. He sat there a moment, watching the patrol car's taillights disappear into the wind. The night closed in again, quiet, cold, and balanced. By morning, the The snow had turned to crust, sharp enough to crunch under every step. Earl's truck sat outside the shop, still dusted white, exhaust puffing in slow gray breaths. Inside, the space smelled like oil and burnt coffee. The radio mumbled some old rock tune through static. He laid the torn cable on the workbench, the frayed steel twisted like frozen rope. The sound it had made last night, that sharp, ringing snap, still played in his head. A second too much tension. He could have eased off, but he didn't. Not then. He stripped the damaged wire, steady hands despite the cold. The torn ends glittered under the shop light. That's how it went, he thought. You pull too hard, something gives. Halfway through rewinding the coil, he stopped. The old ticket, last year's fine, was still pinned above the desk, paper yellowing at the edges, dates circled in red ink. He'd left it there out of habit, maybe out of spite. Hard to tell the difference after a while. The door creaked open. Cold air slipped in with the sound of tires crunching outside. Matthew stood there, uniform sharp, eyes tired. "Morning," he said. Earl didn't look up. "Shop opens at 8. The pause between them felt longer than the night had been. "Yeah, I know. I just figured I'd settle that bill." He stepped closer, boots squeaking against the floor. The sound felt too loud. Earl wiped his hands with a rag, slow, mechanical. The cop reached for his wallet, pulling out a folded slip. "About last night," he started. Earl pointed to the clipboard by the counter. "Receipt's right there." Matthews hesitated, then picked it up. The amount was exact, down to the cent. Earl had written it in block letters. Same ink, same precision as the one above the desk. The cop read it, then glanced at the old ticket still pinned beside it. His mouth opened, but no words came. Earl met his eyes for the first time since last winter. No anger, no smile, just even ground. "Guess we're even," he said quietly. The stapler clicked once. Steel through paper, clean and final. Matthews didn't move right away. The sound of that stapler still echoed, small but heavy, like something inside the room had locked in place. He looked at the two papers pinned together. One is fine, one is bill. Same total, same date. 1 year apart, almost to the day. He let out a breath, rubbed the back of his neck. "That's fair," he said, barely louder than a whisper. Earl nodded once and turned back to the bench. The coffee machine hissed, slow and steady. The kind of sound that fills a silence instead of breaking it. The cop slid the cash onto the counter, a few bills damp from his gloves. "Didn't mean to be an ass last year," he said. "Just rules." Earl looked over his shoulder. "I know. No sarcasm, no bite. Just fact." He folded the rag, pressed it flat on the table, lined the edges before setting it down. Every motion deliberate. Matthews waited like he expected something. Forgiveness, maybe, or a handshake. But Earl didn't move closer. Didn't need to. The two papers on the board said more than either of them could. Outside, the plow truck passed, steel scraping against ice. The windows rattled. Earl watched snow fall off the roof in a soft sheet, landing heavy on the ground. Matthews finally picked up his gloves, cleared his throat. "Well, guess that's that." "Yeah," Earl said. "That's that." The cop paused at the door, hand on the frame. "You ever think about letting it go?" Earl turned the wrench once, tightening a bolt that didn't need it. "Letting what go?" Matthews gave a short nod, like he'd expected that answer. "Take care, Earl." When he left, the shop felt quieter than before. Not empty, just still. Earl stood there, watching the snow pile up outside. The stapler sat where he'd left it, a small dent in the wood beneath it. He didn't touch it again. Didn't need to. The papers hung straight, their edges perfectly aligned, no wind to move them. Sometimes balance didn't need sound. Just wait. By noon, the roads had cleared. Slush turned to dirty water, trickling down the gutters outside the shop. Earl sat by the window with a mug that had lost its handle years ago. The coffee was lukewarm, but he didn't mind. The day felt slow in a good way. The two receipts still hung side by side on the board. Same magnet, same corner curl. In the daylight, the ink looked softer, almost fading into the paper. The hum of the heater filled the room, steady as breathing. He thought about last night. The snow, the flashing lights, the sound of the chain straining before it snapped. That single second when everything could have gone wrong, and didn't. He hadn't planned revenge. It had just happened its own way, quiet and exact, like the world correcting itself. The bell over the door rang once. A kid from the gas station dropped off parts, left a box on the counter, and waved. Earl nodded, watching the boy's reflection leave in the window glass. Outside, a salt truck rolled by, wheels hissing through meltwater. He reached for the stapler again, not to add anything, just to move it back where it belonged. The metal was cold, heavy for its size. He placed it neatly on the far end of the table, next to the receipt pad. Then he sat back and listened to the ticking clock above the door. He pictured the cop on that same road again, slower now, both hands steady on the wheel. He didn't wish him harm, didn't wish him luck either. Some things didn't need either one, just time to settle. The wind brushed the window, a soft whistle under the frame. Earl looked up, straightened the two papers with the edge of his hand. Same corners, same weight. Outside, a siren passed, fading into the distance. He took a sip of coffee. "Guess it's even now," he said. The stapler clicked once, clean, quiet, like balance finding its mark.